Welcome to episode 231 of the Comic Watchers. Today with me are Declan Shalvey and Luke Sparrow, and my co-host unfortunately couldn't join us because we're doing this on at a reasonable time for Declan, who is in on Irish time, right?
Yeah, I'm
So,
actually in America, but I'm on Irish time. No.
oh, well. Anyway, we're here today to talk about the forthcoming series from Dynamite Entertainment, The Terminator. But before we do that, I like to lead with getting to know a little bit about the two of you, and uh, by asking about your history with comic books as a reader and a creator.
Well, I'm looking at Luke's shelves behind him. I don't see a dedicated Declan Shalvey shelf,
Uh-oh.
which concerns me. I feel like that. No, just kidding. Yeah. Well, I'd be more curious. I've done loads of these things, so I'm a lot more curious to hear about Luke, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess as a reader, my dad was really into comics growing up, and there was like a lot of books in the house as a kid I'd look at. I didn't really read them so much as just like I loved looking at the artwork and the characters and stuff, and kind of familiarizing myself with the characters more through like toys and like just drawing from like the Marvel Universe books, the floppies they would do of that, and just loved the look of everything. And then I kind of had a phase where um, like around like end of middle school, beginning of high school, I kind of stopped drawing a lot because my friends weren't really into that stuff, and it was just kind of embarrassing to me for a little bit. Like, oh, maybe this is just a kid thing. I don't want to do this anymore, type of thing. Um, and then in high school, when Superior Spider-Man 1 launched, my brother was starting to get into buying comics on his own again. He had his own job and, his own spending money to be getting stuff. So he started picking up books, and I got that from him, which was like just mind blowing to me because it was, a launching point for me. And Spider-Man was always my favorite at that time. And Ryan Stegman's art was just so cool to me. Like, I didn't really know books could look like that because growing up, there was still kind of more of like the house styles going on and not so much individuality in the art, at least from afar, just kind of being at a kid, flipping through stuff. But yeah, Ryan's art just blew my mind, and I was like, man, I kind of want to do this again. And I started drawing more and just kind of doing pinups of characters and stuff, and kind of realized like this is what I want to do, and put some samples together in maybe 2017 after just working for a long time at Anatomy and Backgrounds and Perspective and stuff, and took those to Chicago. Got some for C2E2, got some advice from editors there, and talked to a lot of artists, and eventually did some work with Ryan Stegman. He happens to live near me, so I'd pestered him for years at conventions. He ended up remembering me, and we became kind of close through that. And he offered to let me help him on some of his Spider-Man books to do some backgrounds, and so I'd go over to his place and work on that. Learned a lot from him, which led to pretty much everything else I've done. Everything's kind of been through Ryan, and Declan now in a big way. So
Well, that's
through
interesting
Ryan, oh yeah,
I've had a bit of a competitive thing with Ryan in my own mind. Not like he would have been aware of it, but he was doing like Wolverine when I was doing Venom, and his star was rising, and I was kind of like, son of a bitch, I don't want to be doing stuff like like a,
yeah.
kind of like it's like a one-sided competition. But he's drawing X-Men now, so I think he wins. But it must have been great to have somebody like physically close to you to kind of mentor you a little.
Yeah, it was really cool. Even just going to his place and like seeing like how people actually do this, and kind of demystifying a lot of the process, which is really hard to break into and understand as somebody not in it. There's not a lot of resources out there to just kind of understand how the job works and what it really is. And a lot of process stuff that I just like thought was more complicated. He just kind of like was doing it like just so simply, and kind of sped me up too, which was cool.
But as well, I guess my rough answer, Chad, would be I've grown up in the west of Ireland. There wasn't really much comics around, but you know, I did have some influences like Tintin and DuckTales, and you know, there would be a lot of licensed comics based on cartoons that were I would see on TV, like the Turtles. But it was really the Batman animated series and the Spider-Man animated series and the X-Men animated series that blew me like open to those characters. So I was able to start hunting down American comics, which were very hard to get over here. But when I was able to get them, they were like these amazing artifacts. You know, like even the advertisements were amazing to me. You know, they all have dollar signs, you know, things like that. Because pop culture, you know, was through America. From our point of view, all pop culture was America. So I mean, so and then when and thankfully around then, Panini UK were doing reprints of older American comics, so I was able to catch up on like a lot of the X-Men storylines, a lot of the Spider-Man storylines. So I was very much big like X-Men Spider-Man guy, and then you know I think it happens to everybody. You hit a certain age and like you start getting into all the moody, realistic stuff. So that opened me up to like Frank Miller and stuff like that. And I went to art college to try and learn how to draw better, but modern art doesn't really do that. So I learned how to talk bollocks instead. And then when I finished that, I didn't really know what to do, how I was going to make it in comics. But I met a comic creator called PJ Holden, who was from the north of Ireland. And he was doing a lot of stuff for 2000 AD. And he basically said, like, he said, oh, you'll be a comic book artist. And my answer was like, how do you know that? And he was like, well, you're 22 now and you haven't stopped. So it's just a matter of time. And that was huge for me. I know it doesn't sound like the best advice ever, but I think in a lot of ways over here, you were kind of waiting for permission. So he kind of gave me permission, and I started going to conventions, showing my work in the UK and then in the States. And I kind of slowly broke in that way over like meeting people and getting like improving my portfolio till I got some work in the UK doing graphic novels. And then I did 20 Days Later, Boom, which was my kind of breaking into the American market. And about a year on that book, Jeff Parker liked my work and sent my work to his editor on Thunderbolts, and that's basically my breaking in story at Marvel.
So let's kind of flash forward to this new series that you're writing for Dynamite, the Terminator. I mean, there's been a few kind of Terminator comic books that have been out there. Tell me a little bit about the one that you're writing and what people can expect.
Well, like I said, I broke into Marvel 2010, cut to 2024, and I'm writing Terminator. It's a bit of a leap, but yeah, I've been writing more. I was primarily an illustrator for years, but I started kind of writing a few years ago, and I took on ThunderCats. It was Nate Cosby offered it to me about over a year ago now, and that's gone really well. And then he and Nick Barucci a few months ago came to me about doing Terminator. And my first instinct was like, I don't know how I have the time to do that. But then I realized I just really have to write it. Somebody else has to do all the backbreaking work of drawing it. So it should be fine. And that's where Luke comes in. But I think my first thought was I was trying to remember the last Terminator comic I read. And it had been a long, long time. The last one I could remember was actually PJ, the guy who gave me that advice. He drew a Terminator and RoboCop crossover, I think, back when I was doing 28 Days Later. So we're talking over 10 years ago. I'm still not sure. I haven't looked it up, but I mean, it must be about 10 years since the last Terminator book. And much like ThunderCats, I think it's cool to be taking on a license that nobody's touched in a while, because there's enough anticipation, I think, for people to be like curious about what you're going to do. And I was told specifically that we were dealing with the continuity of the first film only. So although I love Terminator 2 and, you know, lots of other Terminator stuff, that kind of basically just left that all inaccessible. So I had to kind of come up with a way of making this Terminator book work within the remit of what we were allowed. And I realized after rewatching the first one that it's such a great core concept. It's really dark. It's more like a thriller with some sci-fi stuff at the end. So I thought, yeah, like I would write and draw this. This is something I'd be into. It's right up my alley. And I had approached Luke about drawing a short story for Old Dog Anthology, which is just wrapped up actually. It's out next month. But it was a story I was going to write. Oh, sorry, it was a story I was going to draw, and then I changed my mind about what story I would draw, and offered it to Luke, and he just hit all the like emotional beats that I was going for, and like had such great attention to detail because it takes place over a few different locations, and I just thought this is exactly what the Terminator book I wanted to look like. I wanted to look grounded and moody, and really well developed, and great character expressions, and so I basically then campaigned to get him on the book, and once that was clear, I was happy to do it because I had an idea, but really it was going to me, the art was going to make or break it. I want to make a Terminator book that looks better than a Terminator book has any right to look. If that doesn't sound too presumptuous.
No. So, I mean, you said that this series takes place around the time of the first movie. Is that because it's the 40th anniversary of the original Terminator's release?
No, it's just a boring answer, Chad. It's just that's what the license allows.
Okay.
So we're not allowed going near anything that's in the first film. We can go near. So it's not to say it has to take place in that year. Just that we could use Kyle Reese or we could use Sarah Connor, but anything John Connor, like all that stuff is kind of off limits. So to be honest, I decided to not deal with any of that at all. I feel like that's a vein that's been tapped a lot, and it would be more interesting to basically take the robot itself and put it in different scenarios. So pretty much every issue is a different scenario, a different environment, and the Terminator is sent back to terminate something or someone. So it's more episodic in that way, rather than a bit trying to do a new film. It's basically doing a new series of like different stories that for the most part are self-contained issues.
Okay, I guess it's just
I feel bad because
coincidence.
Every question's about like, so what's going to happen here or there? I'm like, no, we're not doing any of that.
No, I definitely do not want any spoilers about what's going to happen, but just kind of what's the overall broad elevator pitch of the first issue? Is it just first issue going back to? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I jump in all the time. Pardon me. The first issue, I will basically sets up the tone of the book, and I would say that it primarily is about an elderly couple who have lived through the War of the Machines. So it takes place in 2014. I think I'll have to check the script. Actually, I can't remember. Sorry, but it takes place in our recent past. But we're assuming that that Judgment Day has happened. So it's not, it's not about stopping Judgment Day. It's not about saving the future. We're just going to accept that these events have happened, and we'll be telling stories within like the last few decades or century. So it actually takes place in the future, which is our past. With an elderly couple who basically managed to ride out the War of the Machines without fairly safely, like just living on the outskirts. But the past comes back to hunt them down. Is the most vague way I can describe it.
So, Luke, what is your history with the Terminator franchise in general?
For me, I hadn't seen it until I was about 20. And the first one just blows my mind. It's such a cool, almost like I mean, it's got Arnold, and it's not a B movie, but it has almost like a B movie quality to me. In like a positive way. Like it feels so like independent and kind of raw in an interesting way, where when things get super franchisey, they kind of lose their bite to me. So the first one has this appeal of like, it just really is this concept of this monster after you. And I think that's very appealing and moody, and just the tone of everything's so great. The music's so great. Yeah, and then the rest of them, I haven't seen the newest two or whatever, the two more modern
Is it
ones. The
Genesis?
first,
Is it?
yeah, Genesis,
Yeah, I haven't seen
and
that either.
there's a Dark Fate, I think. Is that it?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that
Yeah,
either.
those two I haven't seen. The first one I ever saw, unfortunately, was Salvation due to my age. It was at like the Dollar
I
Theater,
I
and
rewatched that recently. Sorry, I watched it. It's not bad actually. It's better than I remember.
yeah, no, I'm sure if I watched it now, it like beats a lot of franchise stuff we're getting these days. But just based on the fan base, starting out on Salvation, I'm sure is not ideal. But
Well,
I thought it was
I wrote
awesome at the
Alien.
time.
Yeah, I wrote Alien a few years ago, and like I have seen the original two films, but the first Alien film I ever saw was Alien 4, Alien Resurrection, where she like has the baby and then makes out like so. Like again, like you, the first installment isn't necessarily the best one that I saw of the franchise, and it is weird when you're of an age where, like Luke, I mean, were you born when the first one came out? Probably weren't, were you?
No.
No, and that's why I think I was born when it came out. But like I saw Terminator 2 first, which is brilliant, but that's why I never really saw the first one for a long, long time because depending on your age, you can come in on like a franchise on like now Terminator 2 is brilliant, but as you go on, sometimes there's more bad versions of a franchise and there's good versions of it, and that can put you off it if you're of a certain age, I assume.
Right.
So for Declan, when you were writing, and Luke, when you were doing the art, did you look to these movies for inspiration or kind of to get into the frame of mind to work on it?
I mean, yeah, I definitely I rewatched the first one and tried not to watch the second one because, as far as I'm concerned, Terminator 2 is a masterpiece. But it's just going in directions where I don't want to go with this. So going back to the first one, I mean, it's like if I was the artist, I'd be like, this would be cool because it's dark, moody, shadows. It's like it's contemporary, but like in a way that things I imagine are fun. Like I think you were talking about drawing cars on Twitter there the other day, Luke, maybe. And
Oh
I
yeah.
was thinking, yeah, but like drawing 80s cars is much more fun than drawing 2020 cars because they're all curves and clean.
Oh,
Whereas like
certainly.
cars
Yeah.
back then are blocky and dented and scratched. And so I definitely like I can see how it could look when I'm writing it because I really like that tone. Like what's the bar in the first film? Tech noir. Like that just describes it perfectly. Like my goal was I wanted to make like a grounded, kind of gritty, pulpy looking book, and so much of that goes down to. I mean, it's really down to the artist. I could write it a certain way, and it's not going to matter unless that's where the artist is coming from. And I feel like I feel like me and Luke are on the same page there. But I mean, it's really visually, it's all Luke. So like, he's really the one for the proper answer here.
Yeah. Immediately when I was, I don't know if we were for sure that I was doing it, but even when it was a hypothetical, I mean, immediately I ordered the Tempest comic they did in the 90s, the graphic novel of that, just to see what classic Terminator comics were doing, and then I watched the first film again just to kind of familiarize like how they do it, more just visually and tonally, like what kind of clothes people are wearing, what kind of cars, what kind of places they're going to, and how far the action goes, how much the robot moves, how much to kind of push it and where to hold back. And in general, I kind of prefer understated things anyway. I don't like to go too big and flashy for my kind of poses and just dynamics of the storytelling. I prefer a little more realism and stuff. So seeing like how far the Terminator goes to kind of try and match that feel was a first step. And working on Old Dog honestly kind of was a perfect lead up into it. It was a very tonally similar thing to how I've approached both books. So yeah.
I think maybe if correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, but I think we were talking beforehand, and I'd said to me the book is the scene where you see Reese in like his bunker, and refugees are coming in, and dogs start barking, and then one of them, you realize, the Terminator, and starts killing people. Which again, I think that's the scary thing about the idea, not Arnold. I mean, Arnold is this amazing personification, of course, but the idea of the Terminator isn't the same as the idea of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And in that scene, the Terminator starts killing everyone. And there's a great scene where like there's a shadow on him, and there's mist, and you just see the two red eyes. And like to me, like that's the book. That's it. That's what I'm. Not as in the Terminator is scarier when you don't know who he is and you don't know what he is, and and grounding it in that kind of like that terror is kind of more interesting than seeing the robot all the time. Also, I know the robot's hard to draw because I draw the covers. Oh boy! So the less the robot is seen, I think, the better for Luke. But we'll see where the story takes us.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. It'll be fine.
So tell me about the way you guys collaborated on the book, with the writing and then, the art, and how you guys communicated, and I don't know, solved any spats, fisticuffs.
No, it's gone really well for me. I mean, maybe Declan's lying to me, but everything has been going really smooth on my end. Where, I think we do kind of line up tonally pretty well on the way we like to do things. Doing Old Dog before this too was just like, I was a fan of the book beforehand, and been a fan of Declan too since high school. So the way he does books and writes and draws is very similar to me, and I'm sure I learned off of him too coming up. So doing the Terminator book has just felt like a really natural fit, where I can just really visualize what he's doing and know how to do it. And for the most part, not a ton of notes as far as like, I'm just not doing it right or anything. It's like here or there, there's little, this could be more clear or something, but overall it's like, what I'm doing, I guess he's liking, so it's been cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the cool thing about the book is it feels a little bit like a creator owned, in that, I loved Luke's stuff for a good while, and Old Dog was like, well, I can just hire whoever I want. So I wanted to, to work with Luke, and it went so great. I'm like, it's a great feeling when you get pages back and they just like hit that sweet spot of like, this is what I was hoping for, and somewhere within there is a thing you hoped for, but better than what you had in mind. That's always great. And when you ever get that feeling, you want to repeat it as much as possible. So I just knew he'd be great fit for what I wanted the book to be. I mean, I don't know if other writers really care too much about what the book looks like. I'm not saying they don't, just in that I very much do. And I knew that the right artist would really make or break what the book is going to be. And Luke's, I mean, I'm just a fan of Luke's stuff, and I'm just very happy I was able to kind of offer something to him that I think is going to hopefully be really good for his career, in that it's a book where people can come find you. I think it's really tough these days for artists starting out, because they're hopping around from minis to one shots, whereas I'm hoping like Terminator can be the book where everybody learns like just how amazing Luke Sparrow is. And I just, so much of his, like, I'd say we're a little different in like how your paneling looks a little bit different to mine, in how you'll kind of like break things down within a page. But it's not what I would do, but it's like, it's no better or worse. It's clearly what you do, and it still fits. So I'm perfectly happy. And a lot of your choices, I feel, are similar to mine. So it's just a nice, it feels like I'm getting to draw the book without actually having to do any of the hard work, which is a brilliant feeling.
That was kind of my question, because I know, did you kind of approach your writing, also not only as the writer, but also as, an artist, and saying, I can do it this way to kind of give him a little more, whatever he needs.
How do you mean?
Like, I don't know, as an artist yourself, and a writer. Did you write this? Did you tailor your writing to kind of, you know, give him some?
Yes
I
and
don't
no.
know.
Like I'd say I think it wasn't locked in for sure that Luke was drawing it when I started writing it, but I would say when I'm writing, it's 70% drawable by me, in that I know what I'm kind of going for, and I always feel good when I feel like I'd like to draw this. You know, it happens sometimes on Alien, or happens sometimes on other stuff where in the back of my mind I'm like, oh, that'd be a nice shot to draw. But I mean, I have to remind myself I'm not drawing it. But when I have that feeling, I feel like I'm on the right track, because I think if I feel that writing the script, then whoever's reading it is going to feel that too, and that's when I really feel like I'm onto something. So I had it with that in mind, that it was, I have somebody who would end up to. But then I think I can't remember exactly, but before I'd finished no, definitely, yeah, I think I'd maybe written the first few pages and that's it, and then Luke was on board, and because I'd already seen how we kind of clicked together on Old Dog, I just felt like we would click on this. So I just kind of wrote it. I wouldn't say I wrote it specifically for Luke, in that I wrote it in a way that I felt like me and Luke would gel on it, because we both have similar sensibilities. So whatever I'm into, it's 80% likely he's going to be into it too. Or if I think this might be a nice shot, like I don't direct what happens in the panels so much. Like I think I would rarely go with like characters on the left side of the page and other characters on the right hand side, because I hate it when people do that to me. So I try not to do it myself, unless there's something very specific that needs to work visually. But I think there's we haven't really had to talk about it. I think we both kind of just have that same thing that works with us both, unless unless from your point of view, Luke, it's really difficult. I don't know.
No, I think your scripts are they're really economic in what you put in there. I've done some scripts where even like one panel can be like a paragraph of description, and it's nobody's ever going to read that. So what's the point of writing that? So your stuff is like very, here's the information that needs to be there for the story, and you've put a lot of trust in me being able to do it. I think there's only been maybe 5 panels where you've really even asked for something specific. The rest is more like, this is what's happening and where it's happening and who's doing it, but not so much like, do it this way. And for Old Dog, it was kind of funny because there was a couple panels in there where there was like barely a description, and I had to message you like, is there something you want
right.
here, or am I just
No, you're right. I think it's because I had written it for myself initially, so
Yeah,
I knew
yeah.
what it was. Like I when I'm writing for myself, I do try write full scripts, but I do sometimes forget that, like, if it's me, I'm like, oh yeah, well, I know what it is, so it's fine. But then when I gave it to you, I hadn't gone in and fleshed it out like I should have. So
No,
you
it's
couldn't read
not
my
a bad
mind.
thing. It was more just being new to working with you. I didn't want to disappoint you or something. Draw just totally different. So now that I kind of know how things work with us, it's I really prefer how you write your scripts for me, or maybe that's how you write all of them. But it works a
Yeah.
lot
I
for
mean,
me.
no, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, with the way I write for you is pretty much everybody else. I'd actually, funnily enough, there was a bit where Luke had drawn something, but it wasn't technically what it should have been for in the Old Dog story. But the page, it looked so good. My answer was like, it's fine. But he went in and he completely redrew the background to make it more accurate. I was like, like he's working harder for himself than he actually needs to in some cases. Where like I'd be like, no, you're right. It's you've drawn it. It's fine. Leave it alone, because I don't want to have to redraw stuff. I would want him to have to redraw stuff. But he was so dedicated to making it accurate, he went and did it anyway. So yeah, I think I learned over the years and working with so many great writers. I know the scripts I prefer are fairly economical, because like it was like when I worked with Warren, there was very specific stuff he would put in there, and that's fine. I don't mind that at all. But then otherwise he would leave things open, so it left more room for me to put stuff in. And I think it's important when you're working with somebody that you're giving them the room. Like, they're not, some artists have to, like, you've got all this material and you can't draw it all in a page. It's just too much. So you've got to like cut stuff out that isn't working so you can make it work visually. I think that's really tough. I'd much prefer having something lean where the artist can kind of just shape it into to where it needs to be, and then put their own stuff
Yeah.
into it. Because I think whatever the artist adds is going to make it look better, rather than trying to like squeeze stuff in that might seem nice on the page, but like isn't going to work visually.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's helped me finding a way to approach the book as a whole, having more of the freedom to experiment with what's happening in the shot, not have to, like, if you had described every panel just very thoroughly, it would be kind of like a checklist I'm trying to cross off, and
Yeah.
let's make sure we get all that, and it's more of like a puzzle you're trying to complete just for the description, and not so much like what imagery or framing will best demonstrate the storyline there. So having kind of the more bare bones script is really interesting for me. I've mostly worked with people that are more descriptive, and that's probably because they don't also draw. So that's like a benefit to have somebody that knows what is not better, but more natural to work off of.
Yeah, I was talking to my mum the other day, and she was saying about how, when I was young, I wasn't really big into writing. I just wanted to draw, and I didn't quite like writing in class in English and whatnot. But she made a point which I think she was dead right about. Not that I'll ever admit it to her, but I wouldn't be the writer I am had I not been drawing for years. That's clearly like informed how being an artist and being a storyteller and working with different writers and learning what I like and what I don't like. Like, I don't think I could have started out as a writer because I wouldn't have known what kind of storyteller I wanted to be. But I learned that through the process of working with people like, Jeff Parker and Cullen Bunn and Brian Wood and Warren Ellis and John Hickman. Everyone you work with, you kind of pick something up. Be is something that you like, or that you don't like. I think actually it helps to learn what you don't like first, and find your voice. I think I found my voice as a writer through drawing, and because of that, I think I've learned all the things that I know got the best out of me. I want to do the same for whoever I'm writing for. So, like, I like wide panels. I do them a lot. And Luke he'll do some wide, but he'll kind of do like tall ones and kind of break in a clockwork thing. And I kind of don't do that myself, but I would never go to Luke, no, do it the way I would, because that's not going to inspire him or push him or challenge him to be some kind of other version of me or me. I think a lot of people think if writer artists are very, well, maybe some are like this, are very controlling, but I don't want to be the type of collaborator that I didn't like working with. I want to be the other one. So that's what I'm hoping. So I'm hoping this is going.
Yeah, no complaints.
So as you guys were working on the series, was there a character that you kind of gravitated toward, or maybe wanted to possibly explore further?
I kind of can't, because we move on. I can't. Like, the recurring character in the book is the machine, and it's not even the same Terminator every time. So, that's actually the challenge. Is if it was about Sarah Connor, you care about Sarah Connor, and the audience already knows who that is. So it would be easier to do it that way, but the way we're doing it is basically they're new stories every time. So I need to figure out a way for you to care about this new character, and whether or not somebody's trying to kill them. That's the challenge for me. I think the challenge for Luke is like developing a new environment every time. It's pretty tough. Quite a lot of like research and detail and stuff. I can just write down like city, and he's the one who has to actually draw it. But the challenge for me is finding is getting the reader to care about new characters every issue. But that's a cool challenge to have.
Luke, favorite to draw, or favorite part of the Terminator world to draw?
Honestly, as hard as it is, there's just the T800 itself is it's been like, it's one of those things that's so iconic to look at, but you don't really think about how all the pieces fit together until you have to do it. And the first couple of times drawing it so far, just realizing the way they designed it by having to kind of deconstruct it to know how to do it at different angles and stuff it's just like a beautiful design they put together. Like the arm is so cool to me, the like the 2 cylinders behind the bicep, and it's just such a complicated, awful thing to draw, but once you've done it, it's like so satisfying. And
Yeah, like when I knew I was doing the covers, I'm like, oh, cool, I get to do the covers. And now that I'm working on them, I'm like, oh man, this thing is not easy to draw because, like, you get, especially you get to the kind of clavicle thing, and there's
yeah,
wires that come here and there, and you know, it's the idea of it is much cooler than actually drawing it. Actually drawing it is very difficult.
yeah. It's one of those things
But
where,
it is
like,
iconic. Like it is, if you get it right, it's like, you know, and Luke gets it so right.
yeah.
Now, Declan, I know you're working on quite a few books at the moment. Is there something you have to do to get your brain to shift from Terminator to ThunderCats to, say, your upcoming mutant book?
Whatever that is. Yeah, it's very easy for Mystique. Just X-Men theme music. For Terminator, it's the Terminator theme music. It's no. Honestly, when I was writing the first script, I was like, okay, I'm going to get into this. And when I was writing Alien, I listened to the Alien soundtrack, and that was a bad idea because it gets really intense. And I remember I was doing the cover for the first issue, and I was drawing like the face hugger, and the music's like, and you're like, Jesus. It was a bad idea. But the Terminators soundtrack is actually fantastic to write to. So that actually, you know, I'm not one of those people who like makes amazing Spotify playlists to write to, because I would spend a week trying to decide instead of, you know, writing the bloody thing. So no, that actually does, in a very stupid kind of primordial way, Predator soundtrack puts me right in there, because it is so iconic and atmospheric and. No, yeah, it's great, but it is tough to have a lot of ideas in your head at the same time. And yeah, I'm struggling with that a bit. I kind of wish I had an extra month in the year to kind of get ahead on stuff, because I'm kind of like hopping from, you know, ThunderCats to Mystique to Old Dog to Terminator to cover for Mystique, you know, so I'm hopping around a lot. And ideally, I'd kind of like to just to sit down with one property for a bit and really kind of just stew in it for a while. But deadlines are deadlines, apparently.
Now, Luke, when you go to draw, do you have, I don't know, music you listen like Declan? Do you listen to music for inspiration, or do you do anything like that?
For layouts, definitely, because that's more where I'm trying to find the book. That's where all the storytelling happens, is in the layouts. And then pencils is just like having to be good at drawing, which is the hardest part. But for the layouts, I was listening to, I mean, for sure the first movie soundtrack, and then I was listening to the Tron Legacy soundtrack a lot. That one's been on rotation.
That's great.
But when I'm doing like inking and stuff, I kind of just need to zone out. So I more listen to like podcasts and stuff just to like turn my brain off.
Well, you could just put this on and listen to it and zone out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'll listen to myself talk.
Yeah.
What an asshole.
Yeah, that guy sucks.
So how, you know, from when you began to your work on the Terminator, both of you, how do you feel that you've grown as creators?
Getting faster. That's been a big thing for me, having to get faster, which is good. And then what I'm really excited about the book as a whole is because it's so almost like one shots every issue in a sense. It's so many different things I'm going to get to draw constantly, where I'm not just kind of in one mode all the time, where I'm going to have to figure out how I do a lot of things very quickly, which is going to be a big challenge, but will be cool. Already having to draw a lot of things I would like if I was doing samples like I was coming up, I would have maybe avoided like are just difficult. Like there's like a not a car chase, but there's a shot with a truck I did today that I'm pretty proud of. That was if I wasn't forced to. So that, you know, like all art, like you don't have a choice, and if you have a choice, you just won't ever finish anything. So looking
I
over
think
my
there's a big
shoulder
difference.
saying, "Get it done."
Yeah, there's a big difference between doing samples and doing pitch pages, and then actually doing a monthly book. A regular book is like, I remember I had that with 28 Days Later. Like you can spend ages on pages for samples, but you know, editors just, they know that, they know you could be spending a week on 2 pages, but nothing really hones your skills like having to get an issue done in a month. It forces you to make decisions, and it forces you to, some things need to be economical, but sometimes you need to kind of put extra effort into X, Y, and Z. And like I remember when I was doing 28 Days Later, I could feel my skill set go up because you're just forced to make decisions. And I mean, a part of what like Old Dog for me was, I was writing and drawing it, so every issue was a different scenario because that's fun from a drawing point of view. If I was writing an arc for Luke that was like in the same factory for 5 issues, that's going to get very boring by issue 3. So yeah, I think that like the benefit from a drawing point of view is that like things are switched up every issue. So like that gives Luke something to kind of like, finish an issue and go, okay, now this. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see how he develops. Sorry, I'm talking about you like you're not even here, Luke. Sorry, but but I'm really excited to see that. And now we've got colors in on the first issue now, and I was really desperately waiting on those because I know the colorist is an artist with a really great color design, and now having seen his colors on Luke's work, that's the I think I've been saying elsewhere, I like it when I know what a thing is, and another thing is I don't know what they look like together. And I've been excited. I've been dying to see what it looks like together, and I'm so happy with how Luke and Colin are working together. I think the book is going to be fucking beautiful. That's been my thing as a writer. Is like I'm very satisfied with the first issue. I just want to see it. Show it to me. I want to see pages. Where are the pages? And not, I mean, not like that. I'm being forced to wait. Luke's just a human. But I'm being very impatient because I just want to see. I want to see how he draws everything, and I can't. I'm genuinely excited to see the final thing.
And Declan, you're doing a couple covers for the first book, correct?
I'm doing the main covers for the series.
Okay.
So yeah, so on ThunderCats was variants, but on this book I'm doing the main cover, which excuse me, again from a writing point of view, I really like because, well, I just had to do the cover for issue 3 and I haven't finished writing it yet. So like, it's very helpful that I know what's coming because otherwise I'll have to try explain it to somebody else. So that's quite helpful. Before the solicit's written, I could just do the cover. But and selfishly, I get to kind of feel like I have a little bit of an artistic input in the book. I don't know. I don't think Luke's waiting to see the cover for inspiration or anything, but I'm hoping that there's some kind of a visual consistency and tonal cohesion there between me doing the covers and Luke doing the interiors. I know I quite like that in books. When if the interior artist isn't doing the covers, then at least it's consistent, like approach and tone to all the covers. So yeah, I'm very much trying to make a book here that I would absolutely love to read personally.
So is there anything else that either of you would like to mention about the book? And are you going to be coming to any shows in the next couple months or so?
Luke?
I'm going to be at New York Comic Con in October.
Same.
That's all
Me
I've
too.
got. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's all I've got scheduled right now. Just mostly trying to get the book out, keep my head down and drawing and focusing on that. But the book will have just launched at the show. I thought it'd be a good thing to go out there and meet some people and be there. Beat Declan. I never met him, so get to bug him a bit.
Yeah, let me advise you to lower any expectations you may have. I'm no Ryan Stegman, apparently.
Oh, they're huge. I'm expecting a lot.
Well, I'll be in New York as well, actually.
Okay.
So Luke's going to be at my table for a bit. So we're like, I'm really like Luke said, the book will be out, I think, the week beforehand. So, it's going to be really cool to see the reaction. I'm very excited to see Luke's reaction to people reacting to his work. You know, when you've been around for a while, like I have, it's always, it's really cool to remember how you came up, and I feel like I'm getting to vicariously watch it again with Luke. So I'm excited to see that. And yeah, just people enjoy the book. I think you know that there's going to be a backup story by Sal. How'd you say his second name? Sal. Oh, damn it! I can't remember his second name. Shavley. You know him, don't you, Chad?
What's the book? It's eluding me too at the moment. Sorry.
Crivelli, I think it's Crivelli. He's doing a backup story, and Colin, who's coloring Luke, is drawing that. So it's like a 2-page backup, which is fun too. But yeah, I hope everybody picks up the book. Like I'm delighted with how ThunderCats has gone, and I've no complaints. But like I think Terminator is more in line with the type of book, I like to do. It's darker, it's moodier, it's more kind of like more intense, and I'm oh god, I'm so glad Luke could do the book. I just think it looks amazing. Like so many times I'm looking at the pages he hands in, I'm like, oh, that looks great. I would not have put that much work into that panel. It's all like fleshed out and all the details there, the tone. I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to feel like a hack. No, I think it's going to be one of the most beautiful books out this year, and a better looking book than people would expect, one with the word Terminator on it. I'm really, really happy how it's coming out. So I hope everyone checks it out.
Well, this is the part of the show where I let you guys, we've talked about Terminator, but if you have any other work that you'd like to promote and where people can find you, if you're on social network, then that would be great.
Well, I would say if you're curious about Terminator, you should pick up the Old Dog Operations Anthology, which is our first collaboration, and that is out as I scroll through my calendar. Nope, that's a few months ago. Scroll down, Declan. Damn it, it's September. Crap, I can't find it. September 18th,
isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm trying to keep track of everybody who's on it. Luke just needs to remember the date. So thanks, Luke. Yeah. So there's so we've collaborated together on a story. That's our first collaboration. So that'd be a very good kind of like tease to see what Terminator is going to look like. And that has
even aside from that, I've seen some pages from the book, and it looks incredible. I want to read it as a fan. The little snippets I've seen of other people's stories are just
I have the PDF later today, Luke. I'll send it on to you. Not you, Chad, though.
Cool.
You're not allowed.
That's okay.
Yeah, I've written a story for Matthias Bergara, which is amazing. Chris Sprouse just drew a story written by Alex Packnadell, and I colored it. I got to color Chris Sprouse. Like that's the cool thing about doing your own stuff, is you can kind of make your own little sandbox to play in. Sumi Kauskin has a story. Leonardo Romero has written and drawn his own. There's Luke. Who else? Rory McConville, who worked with me on Time Before Time, did a story with Dave O'Sullivan. There's like 9 different stories, and one by me as well that I wrote and drew. And yeah, I love anthologies, and it's really cool to put my own one together. So that's that. The FOC for that is actually on Monday. So if you're into Terminator, give that a go. And then yeah, Terminator is October 9th.
9th, yes.
Yeah, October 9th. And then October 16th is Mystique issue 1 that I'm writing and drawing. I find it hilarious that like that's the biggest thing I've ever gotten to do, and it's like the 3rd on the list of things. and then I think 2 weeks later is Time Before Time Volume 6, which is, if you like Terminator, actually it's very similar because it's this volume are one-shot stories set in different times. So that's very Terminator-y. There's even a robot in it. So you don't need to have read any of the rest of the series. You can just pick up that trade. And the same day, there's something else out. Oh yeah, Phases of the Moon Knight, in which I've created a new Moon Knight character, and I wrote the story. It's like a 15-page kind of like introductory story for this new Moon Knight character, and that's it. Then I'd like to go to sleep.
That's it.
Yeah. I'll say it doesn't sound like you're busy at all.
Yeah. It's a good thing that I do nothing but like just every core of my waking hours is making comics. So yes, thankfully I have an output to put all this work into. But no, I'm very lucky. I get to do all this. It seems like I'm complaining. I'm not. I'm so like fortunate I get to do stuff like this and make a book like Terminator and everything else. So but yeah, so I have a lot of stuff coming out. So please buy it all. Otherwise, I won't be able to afford this house.
And are you on social media?
Oh God, yeah. At Declan Shalvey on Instagram and Twitter. And if you go to my website, declanshalvey.com, you can subscribe to my newsletter that I put out every 2 weeks. And in it, I'll kind of talk about everything I'm working on, like, about how I'm writing scripts, or sometimes I'll show, like I've already shown the cover to Terminator 2 in my newsletter. So no, it's not online yet, but I'll do little things like that where I'll show little snippets, or I'll show little snippets of like Luke working on stuff.
Okay, Luke, how about yourself?
I got Terminator coming out. It's coming, and old dog, but I don't have 20
That's
books
all?
like Declan. Yeah, I'm slacking. I only got the one, so I gotta start writing.
I really need him to work hard
doing
to.
covers.
I'm sorry, Luke. I didn't mean to talk over you. I really need you to sell Old Dog for me. All right, so just keep at it. Then Terminator.
Yeah,
Terminator will be
buy
fine.
Old Dog. Old Dog's great. It's I would take the book from you if you'd let me. I'd draw the whole thing. I'm a big fan. So buy it.
And are you on social media?
Yeah, mostly Instagram at Luke Sparrow, and then on Twitter at Luke Sparrow Art, I think. And then I have a bunch of abandoned apps like Hive and Mastodon and Blue Sky and all that I'll never use again. So don't follow those.
Okay. Well, I want to thank both of you for taking the time this afternoon to chat about the Terminator book. It looks very interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And I will stop by at New York and say hello to both of you if I get a chance.
Yeah, please do, man.
Cool.
And thanks for having us both on. Thanks for not everybody has both of us on, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could work something out.
Yeah, thank you.
To do this. And as my co-host Matt says more eloquently than I can say, the world can be a horrible place. So do something good, help somebody, read a good book, and we'll be back tomorrow evening for another show, both of us. And have a great day.